Hey guys, I figured some people might be interested in replacing their brake pads on their Veloster N, especially if you track it off very often. The brake pads actually last quite a long time, but I decided to replace them with these G-Log R12 race-ready compounds. So if you want to replace your pads, these are really great and I highly recommend them, and we'll go straight into the video on how to replace them. So one of the first things you kind of want to do is to find a good jack point, which I have this little puck, so it allows me to distribute weight and jack up on any part of the frame rail. Just find a little cavity, and from there you can start jacking up. So the first thing you probably want to do after you jack up your car is to break the lug nuts, which I've already done. And at this point you want to just get the right lug. I believe the stock lugs are a 23 or a 22 millimeter socket. Right now I am using some aftermarket lug nuts for these wheels that I have, so they use a proprietary little socket or a 17, whichever one, but they come off pretty easily, and make sure you do it in a star pattern like I mentioned. From there I like to leave the top one for last, just so that the wheel isn't tilting around when you're taking it off, which can make things a lot more difficult and you could end up scuffing some of your wheels as well. But from here, you just want to put your foot there to pop it out, roll it off into a safe place, and basically just lay flat, and there we go. And from there we can actually start looking at our brake pads. I actually have stainless steel lines over here, installed the aftermarket. They're very useful for track to stop it from bulging, but they're kind of a pain in the ass to install. If you can kind of see, you might need to take some kind of flat object and put it on this clip so you can pull. That's the only way to take out that little clip, and it can be annoying, but just a tip right there. From here, we're going to remove that bolt. It is a 14 millimeter socket. You could probably use a wrench if you really want to, but a little tiny socket works fine. You don't really need anything big, as it's not really in tight. So we'll take this and put it in the loosening position, put it in, and then just a little bit of effort will basically take it right out. There you go. And we're going to do it on the bottom as well, which is also a 14 millimeter socket. Just place it there, and it should come off pretty easily, not too much force, as you can see. And from there, after you loosen them, you could basically take them off by hand. They're just these little tiny nuts. It doesn't matter which way they go, they're both the same length, so it works out pretty well. The brake change on this car is very easy, so if you're thinking about changing your brake pads or anything like that, you might as well do it yourself, because you'll probably save yourself quite a bit of money. From here, they should just slide right out with a little bit of force, and you could take the caliper and hang them right off of your suspension perch. Makes it look nice little place. And from here, there's these little retaining clips. You could just wiggle them out, pop them out. You don't really need to use them anymore. The aftermarket pads don't really come with holes to put them in, but it's a good idea to save them for future use. And from here, you could take out the brake pads, but you might need something to kind of bend down this little retaining clip. And once you take out the clip, they slide off pretty easily, like so. And you're going to do basically the exact same thing for the other side, but I need both my hands for the other side, so I'm going to put down my phone real quick. Now with the pad removed, you can see this little backing plate. This is only on the inner part of the rotor, but we're going to keep that and put it on the new brake pad. So the rotor is clean. You don't want to scuff the surface or the rotor's basically done, but here's the brake pad and here's the backing plate. But first we're going to quickly check to make sure the pads are the same size. It's just a quick sanity check to make sure it will fit, and the easy way to put it on top and line them up, and it looks good. So we're going to take the backing plate and place it right on. It should clip right on pretty easily, like so. And from there we're basically ready to install, which is basically the opposite, but a lot easier. They basically clip right into place without much effort. You put the bottom piece in first, or the top piece, whatever you prefer, but once they click in, you can push it in, and it's basically good to go. And now we're going to do the outside pad. Place them in the clip on the bottom, or the top, and pop them in place, and you're basically good to go. So from here's the annoying part, but you have to push the piston back in, which you can see right there. Usually if you have a tool you could do it pretty easily, but since I don't, I'm just going to use a wrench. I'm going to use the perch as leverage, put the wrench over flat, and you could use those little tiny things as handlebars, and you could basically pull down on the wrench to apply some pressure. And it's not a hard pressure that you need to apply, but it's just a continuous hard force, and very slowly the piston should retract, but it can take a bit and it might be a little bit annoying. But if you don't have a tool, this is a quick way, or at least one of the ways that you could do it. It's not terribly bad, but once again, it is kind of difficult sometimes, and you just got to keep applying a continuous force, and eventually you'll get the piston retracted completely flat so you can put the caliper back on. And once it has been fully put back into place, the piston should be flat against the surface. And from there, you can simply just slap the caliper right back on, and you could take the bolts and basically screw them back in place. You might take a little bit of wiggling to find the right positioning, but once you do, it slides right into place, and it is easy enough to kind of just start screwing in hand tight just so it's secure. Once you get one of the ends, you could just start hand tightening the other side as well. And from there, it should be pretty easy and straightforward. Now that we're done here, I forgot to mention that you have to take out the brake fluid reservoir cap, as some fluid is going to come back as you retract the piston. There's a bit, I don't have a tube, so I'm just going to do this really stupid thing, which is kind of just flick some of the liquid out. There was quite a bit actually flooding out, which is why I have this towel. It's a good way to make sure it doesn't spill into your engine bay, but if you could just extract it with a turkey baster or something later on, or early on, it's a good idea, but I'm just being dumb right now, and I don't have any of these things, so I kind of just went with the ghetto method, but whatever works, works. Put it back on, and you're basically done with the brake job. But as a quick tip, it's always a good idea to clean whatever parts got hit by the brake fluid, so we're just going to hit everything with some brake cleaner. This just ensures that nothing deteriorates or gets corroded by the brake fluid, so we're just going to spray everything. This evaporates after you use it, so it's pretty good. So don't be too afraid of spraying it onto any electronics or anything in general, since it evaporates pretty quickly after you apply it. Now, as you can see here, the brake pad has some good amount of life, and for the Veloster N in particular, the OEM pads are actually very, very good on track, and they cost quite a bit. As you can see, these pads have actually gone through about 6 to 7 track days, and they seem to have a bit of life, as you can see from the wear indicator, so it's a good idea to hold on to these, which you could basically do by reusing the box, put them in, and you're good to go.